Hello everybody, this is Kyrix, and I'm bringing you something a little different today. Those of you who watch my videos might know that I am a pony fan. I watch My Little Pony, etc. And I watch blind commentaries, I watch reviews, I watch analysis, and one of the reviewers / analysis that I've been watching was Buc Brony. And thanks to Google Plus and my refusal to toe the line and join up, I can't leave comments. So that's what this video is all about. I took some issues with a video he had, and I suppose I could send it to his inbox, but you know, it's kind of a thing. It's no guarantee that he would read a long-winded thing. There's no guarantee he's even going to watch this video, but he encouraged people, if you have issues with it, leave a comment. Well, I can't. Google Plus. I mean, I could bite the bullet and get Google Plus for a second to do that, but I'm not going down that road. So I figured I'd make a video response, and I would take apart the video, or at least my issues with the video, piece by piece. Now, before I get into the meat of this, I've got a disclaimer. I don't hate this guy, Buc Brony. I don't. The whole reason I know about this video is because I'm subscribed to him, and it came up, and I wanted to see it. I just happen to disagree with what he said here. You know, I hold no ill will towards the guy. Hopefully this isn't going to make him hate me. But this puts me in the uncomfortable position of having to defend Diamond Tiara, which is a completely horrible character. But not for the reasons he says. And let's get started into what that is right now.
But for a long time, I couldn't really put my finger on what the real problem with this character was. Of course, I understood the rather obvious defense people kept giving me. We're not supposed to like her, but I've still always hated that argument. Are you seriously telling me that she could be the most insufferable, obnoxious, irritating, and downright unpleasant character to watch ever? And none of that would matter just because we're not supposed to like her?
In a word, yeah. I happen to think that's the case. Now, you could argue it's lazy writing to make a character who is so obviously hated. But keep in mind, we live in a world where a lot of times people root for the bad guy anyway. To pull another fandom into this, Star Trek Deep Space Nine had that problem with Gul Dukat. He was supposed to be the overarching big villain. But they writ him so charming and just entertaining that people liked him. They made excuses for him. Keep in mind, he was the equivalent of the runner of a Nazi concentration camp. He ran labor camps. He ordered the people killed, etc. But they made him into such a charming person that they literally had to write an episode to completely throw him over the rails because they kind of screwed up and made him too good of a villain. So you could argue that it's lazy for them to make a character that is so obviously meant to be wrong in everything she does and hating her for everything. But if we hate her, and if she was designed that we're to hate her, they succeeded. You could call that a lazy character design, but they did what they set out to do. So in that particular case, yeah, it's okay. They succeeded. And earlier on, I didn't take this clip, but earlier on he also mentioned that other bully characters, you're supposed to like those characters. You really aren't. If you like them, that's fine, but let me put it this way. To pull another fandom, Star Wars, you're not supposed to like the Empire. People just do. Damned if I know why, but they do. But it's the thing, you know? And sometimes you're just not supposed to like a character, and keep in mind, this was written for children. So, whereas an adult, they would drop subtle clues, and keep in mind, that was a Season 2 episode where they were just starting to catch on to the peripheral fandom. And I think most of it was already written by the time we started coming in, you know? I'm not completely up to date on that, but keep in mind, they were writing this for children, so they're giving you the heavy-handed message. Under no circumstances do you like this character. Anyway, moving on.
But I really don't understand what she thought she could get out of convincing Apple Bloom Granny Smith was embarrassing. Later on in the episode, she purposefully tries to convince Cheerly to invite Granny Smith to come to the school. Why? Did she want Apple Bloom to be embarrassed in front of the whole class? Or is it because she just knows Apple Bloom won't want her to come and she just wants to make Apple Bloom miserable?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. Pick whichever one of those questions I'm answering yes to, or pick them both, but yes, that's it in a nutshell. He goes on in the video to basically say, if that's the reason, I have it written down somewhere, but I forgot because I was showing my friend. But anyway, if you don't get that mindset for a bully, then I envy you, because I know firsthand, being on the receiving end, some people are just like that. You try to think, oh, no one's two-dimensional, no one's all bad, etc., but there are people who like to make you suffer just to watch you suffer. And it's a sad fact of life, but it is a fact of life. I mean, I was bullied by mercilessly by people who had no reason. I literally never did anything to them. They just singled me out and decided, that's the guy, that's the kid, we're going to make his life miserable all school year. I never did anything to them. I never spoke to them. I didn't snub them. I didn't cost them anything. They just, oh look, he looks different than us. He's the target. So yeah, that's exactly it in a nutshell. And she actually has a better reason than most of the bullies who picked on me for singling out Apple Bloom. She has the whole blank flank thing going on. She's the outsider. So you know what? She started picking on her for that and realized, you know what, this is fun. I can emotionally manipulate this pony. And she saw another reason to do it, and she pounced. And that's where that was.
This whole problem could have been avoided if you just remove Diamond Tiara and have Apple Bloom convince herself that Granny Smith is embarrassing, and have Cheerly come up with the idea of bringing in Granny Smith.
That would be a good point, except I would argue the fact that, again, they're writing it for children, and when you have something, it implies that without an outside source, she loves her family and doesn't see anything wrong with them. Not only took Diamond Tiara pointing out that Granny Smith was strange, but explaining it in detail what was wrong and that other people think that's wrong, before she would even consider the notion that there was anything at all wrong with Granny Smith. Without Diamond Tiara there, if she had announced that Granny Smith was going to be the person, she'd have been overjoyed. Oh, I get to share my wonderful grandma with someone. And Diamond Tiara ruined that. Whereas if Apple Bloom discovered that herself, that would at least send the upfront message that it's really okay. It's normal to be embarrassed about your family. And we all are, but again, this is supposed to be somewhat more idealized. It's a lot safer from a standpoint that they're coming from to have the bully do this, because she already has the reputation. She already has this established character that she wants Apple Bloom and her friends to suffer at all costs. So of course she would see this new thing and pick on them about it. Otherwise, you're coming from the fact that Apple Bloom, who's a member of the largest and most tight-knit family seen so far in the show, that suddenly she is going to, out of nowhere, be ashamed of one of her family members when that's never even been hinted at before. So you could just establish this whole other side of Apple Bloom where she's secretly ashamed of her family, thus possibly opening up the fact that she could be the same with other members of her family. Or you could say, well, Diamond Tiara is already screwing with her, let's just add another facet to that. Again, it's the safer route and it makes more sense. It could have been an interesting story the way you said it, but I'm not arguing that. I'm explaining why the choice for Diamond Tiara.
I've already gone into quite a bit of detail in other videos about why I cannot understand the reason for placing Diamond Tiara in the role of the CMC's boss. It doesn't tie in with her character at all, and there's really no reason it couldn't have just been a completely new character. Some people tell me it's because it's a CMC episode, so it has to have Diamond Tiara in the role of antagonist. Well, where does this unwritten rule come from that Diamond Tiara has to be the antagonist in a CMC episode? There's nothing about Diamond Tiara's character that fits with her forcing the CMC to write newspaper stories.
I disagree with you on that. There is everything about Diamond Tiara's character that does that, and it all stems back to the blank flank thing. She is, to use TV tropes, she is the alpha bitch. She's the one in charge. She is the center of everything. Think back to I want to say Call of the Cutie was the first episode where Diamond Tiara was established. I get the early season 1 Cutie Mark Crusader episodes mixed up. Yeah, it was Call of the Cutie. I'm thinking of the other one being Showstoppers. But anyway, her whole thing is, that whole reason for the party is, I'm special. I'm the best. Look at me. You know? And to reinforce her own position, she has to drag people down. You can't be on the top if there's nobody below you. You know? And the further down the lowest person is, the higher up you are. You know? It's like, let's say we're at a staircase, you know? And you're at the top of the staircase, everyone else is around the middle of the staircase. You can look down and say, oh, look at how much smaller than me they are. They're nothing to me. But you know what? You make someone, let's say you drop something down to the bottom of the staircase and say, hey, you, go get that. They're down at the bottom. Oh, man, I am so much better than this person. Look at them. They're an ant even compared to these other little peons. They're nothing to me. And it's an ego boost for people like that. It all has to do with being a raving egomaniac, which she is. She gets to be in power by bossing other people around. The whole reason that she draws attention to the blank flank thing is because now she has her cutie mark. Most of the class has their cutie mark. She can't lord that over them. Look, I've got a cute symbol on my butt. Yeah, well, so do I. What's your point? But if she draws attention to the one pony in class who doesn't, yeah, look what we all have better than her. And of course, my dad's rich, so I'm better than the rest of you, but we're all better than this one. And that's where the whole thing started. And because Apple Bloom rose to her bait so often, she sees Apple Bloom and her friends, by extension, as an easy target. And this is, I'm going to step away from Ponyville Confidential for a second and go back into the other thing. That's why the whole Family Appreciation Day happened, because Apple Bloom was her target. She probably bullies a lot of people, but Apple Bloom's her favorite because she has so much more that she sees. She sees herself as having so much more to lord over Apple Bloom than she does over, say, Snips and Snails or Twist or any of the other fan-named ponies in the classroom, you know? But as for Ponyville Confidential, keep in mind, her father is, quite literally, filthy rich. And she comes from money, she comes from power, she comes from wealth and influence. And without proper I'm sorry about the flubbing of lines. This is literally done off the cuff here. But without the proper upbringing, and I'm not saying that if you're a rich kid, you're automatically a wasted human being, but it's very easy to become one. If your parents don't ground you, and I'm not talking go to your room, I'm talking giving you the grounding, being a grounded person, that you have perspective on things. If you don't get that, you're going to see the wealth and privilege you have and assume that extends to all aspects of your life simply because you are who you are, and not because your ancestors way back busted their ass to get you where you are. You think, oh, well, in her case, I'm Diamond Tiara. Of course I'm the best. The world revolves around me. And what better way to prove the world revolves around her than by making it revolve around her? She hears about the full free press. She's like, oh, I can be editor there. Now, we don't know how she got the job of editor. Maybe she wrote a resume. Maybe she was the first to volunteer. Maybe she had her dad slip the school some money and say, make my daughter editor, you know? We don't know. But it fits entirely with her character as the alpha bitch, that she has to be in charge. Now, I'm not saying that's a wonderful character archetype, but it fits. It makes sense. And yes, you could establish a new character, and that would open up the mythos even more. I'm not saying that would be a bad idea. But it's much easier and cheaper to work with what they have than to hire a new voice actress or actor, though I don't think they'd get away quite as easily with a boy bullying the girls, and to make up a whole new model and all this and come up with all this stuff when they just, again, they have this character that fits the mold perfectly. Now, I would argue, and given the topic of your video, you might take offense at this, I would argue it would make no sense if Silver Spoon were the editor, because she's still up there in the bitch tier, But she's a much more passive character. She doesn't really do anything on her own. So if she were suddenly the editor, that would have thrown everybody off. That would have been completely out of left field. She's never shown anything like that. But keep in mind, like you said, silver spoon implies you come from wealth and royalty or privilege or whatever. And she follows Diamond Tiara. So that means that even among other rich ponies, she has the status to throw her weight around. And I explain this somewhere. I'm not going to get too much into detail because it's a little controversial. But I explained this concept to someone of how egomaniacs work. That it's not enough to boss around your peers. You have to boss around those inferior to you because it inflates you that much more. Diamond Tiara, while lesser than her, is her peer. That's a fellow rich pony. That's why she's her friend. She still bosses her around, but that's her friend. That's her equal. But the other ponies in school, those are her inferiors. They're average. They're peons. They're nothings to her. And Applebloom and her friends, well, they're nothings with even less. They're blank flanks. They don't even have their cutie marks, which is something everybody has. So that's why she's extra harsh on them. And actually, I think it was interesting in the fact that that was the least bullying she ever displayed. I'm not saying she didn't do horrible things to them at the end with the blackmail, but think about it. When they started bringing her stories, she treated them with respect. She actually gave credit where it was due and said, oh, you three are doing great. Keep this coming. She took pride in their work, mostly because she could pass it off as her brilliance as an editor. But she treated them well while they were doing what she wanted. She only snapped back into her bitch role because they were going to stop. That was the most successful. That took their school newspaper to the citywide level, and they wanted to take it away from her, and that would make her a failure. And keep in mind, she wasn't overtly harsh. Well, she was, but not out of cruelty. She didn't reject their earlier stories because, oh, the blank flanks are stupid and I want to be cruel. She rejected them because she had so much ambition for making this the best paper she could. And she didn't think those stories would do it. But when Gabby Gums came out, it literally brought the newspaper to the expectations she had for it. She didn't want that to be a school paper. She wanted to take it places it had never been before. She had the adult ponies that didn't even have kids in that school reading that paper just because of her gossip column. Well, the girls' gossip column that she edited. And that's where that whole thing came in. Now, if you'll excuse me, I feel a little sick that I had to defend that little bitch, but I do not like Diamond Tiara as a character. Before this moment, I never considered arguing her merits to anyone. But there you have it. Now, you can feel free to disagree with me. You can feel free to comment, though I'd rather you didn't. Not because I don't want negative comments or whatever in my video, but because of Google Plus, I can't read half of them. So, by all means, either make a video, because, Buc Brony, if you make a video, I get it in my inbox. I'm subscribed to you. I'll see it. You can respond to me that way. You can send me a message in my inbox, like I'm sending you one that I'm hoping will send you to this video. I'll hash it out with you. I'll talk with you. We can debate this. I would love that, but I just wanted to leave a comment and Google Plus won't let me. So, here's the video. Alright, this is Kyrix, apparently taking my stab into analysis. See you later, guys.